Fight fans, buckle up! Charles Oliveira explains why he would like to fight Conor McGregor at UFC White House card. In Rio de Janeiro during UFC Rio Media Day, Charles Do Bronx Oliveira made it clear he wants in on the planned UFC event at the White House on June 14 of 2026, and he spelled out exactly why he hopes the opponent is Conor McGregor. Oliveira called a South Lawn slot gigantic for legacy and said if the UFC needs him, he will be ready. When pressed on the ideal dance partner, he laughed and acknowledged the obvious by naming McGregor as the matchup, not because of any personal rivalry, but because it is the money fight. Oliveira was candid about his motivation, saying the reason is financial since a meeting with McGregor would generate a massive amount of revenue for everyone involved. He added that McGregor has made history inside the cage, beaten big names, and promoted fights in his own way, which Oliveira respects even if he does not use the same approach. Importantly, Oliveira noted McGregor has never disrespected him and he has said only good things about the Irish star. McGregor has not fought since his injury loss to Dustin Poirier in 2021 and is currently serving an 18-month suspension due to whereabouts failures, though he will be eligible to return in March, which aligns with the White House timeline later in the year. CTA time. If Charles Oliveira gets the White House stage, who should he face and does a Conor McGregor meeting make the most sense? Like and subscribe right now and Charles Oliveira will win in Rio. You heard it here first. Strickland gets married and celebrates by shooting guns with his wife. Former UFC middleweight champion Strickland announced he married his longtime partner and marked the occasion in a way that fits his public persona. He posted a photo with the wedding party holding rifles along with a caption that said, "It is time to grow up," then shared a video of himself and his new wife firing an automatic weapon while she was still in her wedding gown. The clip circulated widely across combat sports social media and mainstream feeds because it blended Strickland's outspoken identity with a traditional moment. In competitive terms, Strickland last fought in February, dropping a unanimous decision in a title rematch with Dricus du Plessis at UFC 312. A potential rematch with Israel Adesanya had been floated, but that talk cooled. More recently, Strickland has mentioned that a fight with surging contender Anthony Hernandez interests him. No date has been announced for his return, and there is no official bout agreement yet, but Strickland remains one of the most discussed figures at 185 given his willingness to compete frequently and his tendency to stay part of the conversation between fights. The marriage reveal and the range session added another headline to an already busy timeline for the former champion. Dana White unsure if Ronda Rousey is actually plotting a comeback, but says she is freaking ripped right now. Ronda Rousey recently posted training footage and talked about finding her love for mixed martial arts again, adding the classic line, "Never say never," when asked about competing. That naturally raised questions about a potential appearance on the massive White House card in 2026. UFC chief Dana White addressed the speculation following UFC 320. He said he remains close with Rousey and that they speak every few months. She visited the office during a recent trip to Las Vegas, but White said he does not know her plans and believes she is primarily training while focusing on family life. He stressed that she has had 3 babies and is in a different stage of life, yet he also remarked that she looks in great shape and is freaking ripped like she used to be. Rousey, who turns 39 in February, has not fought since late 2016. After her long reign at bantamweight that included 6 title defenses, she suffered a knockout loss to Holly Holm and then a quick defeat to Amanda Nunes. She later transitioned to professional wrestling with the WWE and stepped away to prioritize her family while writing an autobiography and a script that is being adapted into a biopic project. White did not close the door on a possible return, and Rousey herself has kept that door slightly ajar with her recent posts, but there is no active negotiation or matchup linked to her name at this time. Charles Oliveira calls out Max Holloway for BMF title fight after UFC Fight Night in Rio. As he prepared to headline UFC Fight Night in Rio against Mateusz Gamrot, Charles Oliveira outlined another target beyond his immediate assignment. He put a spotlight on the BMF belt and specifically called for a rematch with Max Holloway after this weekend, saying that winning in Brazil and then going after the BMF title would propel him toward another run at the lightweight crown. Oliveira and Holloway first met back in 2015 in a bout that ended in the first round due to an esophagus injury, a strange outcome that did not offer a true competitive resolution. Oliveira referenced that unusual finish and said a second meeting would deliver the kind of high-profile action fans crave while letting him rewrite that chapter. He also noted that he has rebuilt his career since those early setbacks, stringing together a long winning streak that culminated in a lightweight championship and a series of highlight finishes. Holloway, fresh off his victory in Dustin Poirier's retirement fight, has signaled that he is open to major cross-divisional opportunities. Oliveira believes that a BMF showdown with Holloway checks all the boxes, adding star power, stakes, and momentum for future title conversations at 155. For Oliveira, the timing feels right given his desire to stay active, fight often, and keep placing himself in the most visible opportunities the UFC calendar can provide. Mateusz Gamrot wondered if Charles Oliveira was scared to fight him at UFC Rio and lays out a plan to earn a title shot. When Rafael Fiziev withdrew due to a knee injury and the UFC needed a new main event in Rio, Mateusz Gamrot's name was sent to Team Oliveira, and the match was ultimately set for 5 rounds. Gamrot admitted it took a couple of days to finalize, and in that window he suspected Oliveira might hesitate to switch from a striker like Fiziev to a grappler like himself. He said it struck him as odd to imagine the UFC leader in submissions being reluctant to face a grappler, and he emphasized that he comes to every fight with the same plan, which is to take opponents down and create scrambles. Gamrot is an ADCC Europe Trials winner, yet he has not registered a submission since joining the UFC, something he attributes to previous opponents treating the ground like fire and focusing only on standing back up. He believes Oliveira changes that equation because Do Bronx will fight aggressively from guard and hunt chokes, back takes, and guillotines, which should produce non-stop exchanges. Gamrot compared his expectations to the frenetic pace of his bout with Arman Tsarukyan, where both men welcomed wrestling sequences and transitions. Having lost a close split decision to Dan Hooker in Australia, Gamrot said he does not want to leave anything to judges and intends to finish Oliveira if possible. On the wider division, he suggested that the winner of Oliveira versus Gamrot should meet the winner of Tsarukyan versus Hooker out of UFC Qatar, with that meeting serving as a #1 contender fight at lightweight. He also predicted that Ilia Topuria is likely to face Justin Gaethje or Paddy Pimblett next, and said he favors Topuria if either matchup is booked. Eddie Hearn offers a blunt take on UFC fighter pay and revenue splits. Boxing promoter Eddie Hearn weighed in on the economics of UFC headliners with a straightforward hypothetical that has sparked debate. He said to imagine telling a UFC star that the event is their show and they will take 80% of the profit while the company takes 20%, which is closer to how some boxing deals are structured at the top level. Hearn argued that if that model were applied in mixed martial arts, many UFC fighters would make 5 to 7 times more than they currently earn.
What time does the UFC fighter go, hang on a minute, how much money is in the pot here? You kind of need me, don't you? I mean, I'm the talent. Without me, do you even have a show? Yeah, maybe you can put someone else on. But I've just sold this arena out. I'm just racking you up 400,000 or 500,000 pay-per-view buys. I'd like to actually see, that's when we get a fighter of that size and magnitude, like Anthony Joshua, we'll go, you own the show. So you imagine you said to a star in the UFC, right, it's your show. And we're going to have open book and you're going to take 80% of the profit of the show. And we take 20%. Imagine how much the UFC fighters would be making. 5, 6, 7 times more than they're making at the moment. And this conversation probably isn't making me that popular, but that's the truth of the situation. The UFC guys are fighting without any understanding of how much revenue's in the pot. And these guys don't care because, and by the way, it's their business. They can do what they want. If they can get away with that model, good luck to them. But in that model where it's a league or it's a contender series and the guys are getting 50 if you win this fight and 100 and then 200, it's peanuts. How much are they getting from Paramount? If it's multi-million dollars per show for the rights fee, which it probably will be, the profit is unbelievable.
His remarks arrive as the sport continues to grow globally, with record gates, international stadium shows, and new broadcast arrangements. Hearn's perspective brings attention to revenue sharing, back-end participation, and long-term upside for elite fighters who help anchor the biggest cards. While the UFC model differs significantly from boxing in terms of centralized promotion, roster control, and guaranteed event cadence, Hearn's comment has reignited conversations among athletes and managers about what is possible as the audience expands and landmark shows such as the White House event approach. Whether the economics ever shift toward a larger profit participation structure remains to be seen, but the comparison to boxing paydays ensures the topic will stay in the headlines whenever megastars and supercards are in play. That is today's run of headlines. If you want more fast and focused updates just like this, smash subscribe, ring the bell, and tell us in the comments which matchup from these stories you most want to see so we can keep the coverage dialed in.